Right, I'm going to go out of the chat for a second, so hopefully I can still keep up with that. Hi, Mum. Right, wonderful. I think this is starting pretty much on time for once. That's quite impressive. So, if you're on already, we have actually posted a link to the stream in the group. So if anybody's sat in front of something, they can share that on. We'd be very grateful. We're quite happy for people to join partway through. So that's on the Facebook group, so you can share it on that. Or if you want to send the link to someone, they can just go to rolfandco.com/live, and that's got the video kind of embedded in it, so people can watch it live on that, or you might already be doing that. But obviously it's great if more people are joining in, we get more interaction. As I said before, I've hopefully cut the delay down this week, so while last week we were on about 20 seconds delay, I think I've managed to get it down to about 4, so you're hearing me almost live, and that means when you're talking to me, I'm getting things straight away and being able to kind of react straight away, so it should make things a bit easier. So welcome to the Photography Club. I'm Gavin Rolfe from Rolfe & Co Photography. We've got Jenny over here, it's my wife and business partner.
Hello.
And Ralph is asleep down here, he'll join in at some point. But I'm sure most of you have already seen him anyway. So obviously, for those of you that are new, we're fairly new to this. This is week 4, so which is the 7th live actual stream of it, because we're doing 2 a week. The first episode is a Friday, so sorry, the first part 1 of an episode is a Friday, where we talk about the topic and do a few tasks and kind of get to know something, so it's a bit of a lesson. And then part 2, we come back to it, we kind of readdress everything, make sure everyone picked it up, and look back at our work and congratulate ourselves, which is always important. So a few things you're going to need to join in on this. So we're going to need some kind of phone or digital camera to make sure we can kind of join in properly live. Bit of enthusiasm, so I'm going to ask you questions and getting you to join in a little bit. And of course your brain is important too, which I'm tending to be leaving behind on days when I'm not doing this. Sorry, I'm just going to mute notifications, that's annoying me. Wonderful. So yeah, what we do then on Tuesday as well is we pick our 3 favourites from the week's images, and they go through to the final round, and we're going to pick a winner, an overall winner at the end of this also. We're going to be looking at least, so it's going to be 8 episodes by the end, isn't it? So assuming we only go on for these next 3 weeks of lockdown, but yeah, we'll pick an overall winner of that, and I think we're looking at the option of having another winner as well, kind of a runner-up winner, which is going to be voted on the Facebook group, so the best picture overall. It's not a runner-up, is it? That's another winner. So yeah, got a few ideas with that. Everything's kind of fluid. We've been kind of just planning everything as we go along and just seeing what everybody wanted. We've got a poll going on the photography group, which is on Facebook. So you type the Photography Club in. There's a group on there that you can join. We'll just accept you straight away. We've got a poll going for what we're going to do in next week's episode. I think it's looking like phone photography. So if anybody's got anything they want to particularly learn on that, but I think I'm basing it so far around making the most out of taking photos with your phone. So assuming people just want to take good photos for Instagram and things like that at the moment. Wonderful. So this week we are discussing symmetry. I'm sure that's something everybody kind of understands. So there's not a huge amount of explaining. It's not a kind of rule. It's something that we just know, hopefully. Can anybody summarise for us about symmetry? Kind of describe what it is, just to make sure we all know what we're doing. Oops, if I'm live on that. Right, it should be all straight on it this time, giving us some chat going on. Telling us about things. Sorry, I should actually tell you what you're telling me about. So we want to know what symmetry is. Can everybody share with the group a small definition of symmetry? Objects or shapes around a line of symmetry. Keep going, George. Keep describing for me. You're kind of most of the way there. Cool, I thought everyone would be right on it without a delay. difficult to explain, really. It is. It's kind of something you know. You just know, don't you? Yeah. So George's use of the line of symmetry is perfect. Identical parts facing a central point. Yeah, that works as well. I think we can confirm we understand it at least, which is good. Having a central image that is balanced in the background around the middle line. Yeah, there we go. Can everybody read what we're saying on that? So symmetry is basically, you've got a centre line, whether that's vertically or horizontally, don't forget it can work either way, and the image or movie or whatever we're doing is balanced on both sides of that line. So I generally find in photography, and obviously we're going to be talking a bit about films and kind of things in this episode as well, is that it doesn't have to be perfect to work. Well, in theory, I suppose symmetry is perfectly equal on either side of that line. I think as long as it looks right. I mean, I've put this one up of Pablo, which it isn't perfect, but it just works. It still gives that same feeling of symmetry, and you'll find that a lot in photography, that yeah, you see it as imperfect still kind of works anyway. Yeah, sorry, there's a little bit hidden underneath me here. So he is central on it. Don't criticise me. It's right, I promise. So can anyone think of some examples of things that are symmetrical? Just to give us some ideas of what we can see in everyday life, in nature, things we're used to seeing that are symmetrical. Face. Yeah, a face would be symmetrical. A clock at 6 o'clock, yeah, perfect. And George, that's a good example actually, because while a clock isn't mirrored as such, it's not perfect either side, it's still symmetrical, everything still balances. If you just had a clock in the middle of a picture with nothing else around it and it was shot perfectly straight on, you're going to still get a symmetrical image, even though it's not perfect. You've got different numbers on either side. So I suppose what we're saying is that mirrored and symmetrical are kind of different in theory, I guess. Door? Yeah, door could be symmetrical. Is there anything in nature anyone can think of? George, good answer, George. We'll get onto that in a second. Somebody's definitely done the homework there. So what I had originally planned was to be sat outside at a desk, exactly symmetrical, sat in the middle with perfectly everything symmetrical, just to, I'll show off. But yeah, it's too windy, so that wasn't happening. Butterfly, bird, excellent. Yeah, quite a lot of flowers would be. So yeah, what you're showing there is that like we get a lot of symmetry in nature. So while we were talking about shapes and things, that man-made objects worked really well, we quite often get some symmetry in nature. But again, I find that quite a lot of nature is going to be imperfectly symmetrical, isn't it? Yeah. Looks like we're going to have fun. Sounds good. Right. Okay, let's move on. So, obviously we know George did the homework because he's told us all 3 times already. Who else did the homework, and what film did everyone watch? Human Body. Excellent, Zoe. Vitruvian Man. Perfect example of symmetry. Okay, so everyone watched Fantastic Mr. Fox. It was the one that was on Prime. None of the rest were kind of that available, unfortunately. I have a feeling Life Aquatic was for a bit. And I've got a few of them on DVD, but they're all packed away, so I wasn't able to watch them. Seen them all, Zoe. Okay, talking of showing off, George, you just got trumped there. In the showing off stakes, nothing else. So Zoe, does that mean seen them all, I'm too good to have done them to watch one this week because I've already seen them all? Or does that mean you watched another one this week anyway? Is that cheating? It's my sister, I can tell her she's cheating. Cool, Emma, good answer. Yeah, that's what I hoped. I think just getting a feel. Was anybody, and lots of trailers and Fantastic Mr. Fox. Was anybody new to Wes Anderson's work? For anyone who didn't know, Wes Anderson's a director and writer and cinematographer. Was anyone new to his work before we introduced it? Mum was. You'd seen them before then, George? So had you only seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, George, or had you seen other films as well by him? Other ones, okay. What about everyone else? Has everyone... I mean, obviously Fantastic Mr. Fox seems to be the kind of common one, so has anyone got any other favourites or anyone others they particularly want to look at, or is it mostly that? Did everyone enjoy it? Sorry, that's a good question, Jen. Did everyone enjoy it? Yeah, Grand Budapest Hotel is a fantastic film. So I've called this an episode on Symmetry. We could almost have called it an episode of Wes Anderson, by the way this is going to go. So apologies. So, where are we? I need to stop looking down at this, sorry guys. So the main question, the question I asked you before you watched Wes Anderson films or clips, was why have I asked you to watch things by Wes Anderson? Yeah. Wes Anderson is very well known for his symmetry. I mean, I watched Fantastic Mr. Fox last night while I was writing this, so that I did the homework too. It's not just you guys, I'm not just being lazy. Because I wanted an excuse to watch them again. I can't really argue with that, yeah, fair enough. But as I said, yeah, I've only got about 4 of them in the loft on DVD, but they're all boxed away, so I couldn't really watch them. But yes, Symmetry. You will find that about 75% of the film are symmetrical photographs that are moving, basically. So Fantastic Mr. Fox is a great one because it's stop motion, is that right? What do you call it? Stop motion.
I think it is that.
When they move the models, yeah. Anyway, it is a really good one to look at because every single shot is so perfectly set up. Wes Anderson will do that all the time. He's very staged and very planned with everything. Oh, hang on, I've not caught up here. I'm so glad you two picked up on that. That was going to be my next question, was what else does he do? Absolutely. He uses analogous colours. He'll also use his complementary colours a lot, particularly in Grand Budapest Hotel. Life Aquatic uses it a lot. Fantastic Mr. Fox is a lot more analogous, but I'm so glad you picked up on that. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, so for what we're doing, we are learning kind of rules and ways to do things. Obviously, as I said before, and I've said in every week, there's no reason why you can't just keep breaking those and everything still look amazing. Wes Anderson does everything perfectly, exactly right every single time, and makes it look amazing. What kind of effect does that have? Hang on, I think I've got a slide for that. I've forgotten. I'm going off screen all the time. I'm forgetting what I've written. I might try and rely on this, it's easier. No, I've pressed the wrong thing now. Try that again. I know the presentation has missing fonts, thank you. Right, we're there. Yeah, we could have easily called this the Wes Anderson episode because what we are doing is going to be very like his films. So yes, perfect. Showing you a load of stills from Wes Anderson films. So we've got Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest Hotel, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Darjeeling Limited, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Moonrise Kingdom. That might be Grand Budapest Hotel again. Which one's that? No, it's Royal Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic. So what kind of effect does all this symmetry have? Now, we can easily think of these. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I personally think that every single one of these could be a photo in its own right. I think they're absolutely beautiful. They don't all pieces of art, obviously, with the Fox ones. I don't think you necessarily have to think of them as films. They're absolutely beautiful as they are. So what kind of effect does this have when we're working like this? Beautiful, thank you, Zoe. That's very succinct. It gives each film a very distinct artistic style. Here's a recognisable for the symmetry, and then each film has its own colour palette. Absolutely. What else can anybody else kind of agree, disagree, or add anything to that for us? Not even sitting on the fence, George. So far, everyone that's interacting seems to be people who've been on before. Do we have any newcomers? Anyone who's not joined us before? Or obviously, I've not mentioned this yet. If you are just sat watching on your TV, that's absolutely fine. Don't worry. Please join the Photography Club group on Facebook, because you can talk afterwards on there easily with everyone. Everybody will hopefully kind of get into a conversation with you if you would like. But obviously shout out the answers at the TV. I can hear you, honestly. But yeah, no, you're absolutely welcome to join us like that. That's fine. If you, while you're doing that, you want to send us messages on Instagram, Jen's sat on her phone so she can answer things for you at the same time. I'm trying to get friends to tag along. Thank you, George. Did anybody else have anything to add to that? Did anybody else, what did they find with those shots? What kind of look does it give it? Makes film feel ordered was kind of what I was looking for, Sally. Thank you. I think it gives it a very a kind of formal and set up look to it, as you say. So it's very perfect, basically. And I'm not saying that imperfect is bad. It's just very, very perfect. Everything is so exact and precise, and he's obviously, I'm guessing, quite an OCD person, that he has to have everything a certain way. So he's obviously planning every single shot like we might photograph, and making sure everything sits to that symmetry, or nearly everything, I should say. I think in kind of on the flip side to what we did last week and looking at rule of thirds tends to look natural. It tends to look kind of easy on the eye because it's something you're used to seeing. Symmetry is actually kind of the opposite, but it's very harsh, it's very obvious, and you kind of see things almost unnaturally, isn't it? Surreal, yeah, surreal, definitely. And I think that gives his films a very artistic quality, like you said, Zoe, because it's not feeling natural, it's feeling very planned, it's feeling like he's intentionally done all of this. So yeah, he's a great person to, obviously there's plenty of other people doing it, but he is a very good person to study for this. So I didn't want to just tell you Wes Anderson's amazing, it should be only loving his films. I just mean that this is a great person to look at just to get an understanding for how we can create symmetry in photos. So yeah, so as we move on to kind of a few activities now, think about his work when you're taking the photos and see how much you can get this symmetry working. So as in previous weeks, I know we talked about the clock before, George, we want to be creating, not just taking a picture of a clock soon, I haven't got to it yet, it's creating that symmetry. So creating an interesting photo, not just an object that's symmetrical, creating a photo that's symmetrical. So, hang on. Yes, so how do we go about creating symmetry in a photo, which is what I was just talking about. See, I should just read ahead, make it much easier. Does everyone still have the grid on their screens, so that they on their cameras, so we can make it a little bit easier? Draws your eye to the centre. Yeah, more importantly, Lisa, it's drawing your eye to the subject as that midpoint. So you're always keeping the most important thing on the middle. Or if it's two, quite often what he'll do is face two characters towards each other, or face straight on, and you're creating that symmetry while still kind of focusing on both things. So while you're not then led to the middle, you're led to either side, but you're still symmetrical. The other thing he'll do is he'll do shots straight after each other. So the first one, he'll have the character on this side. Second one, he'll have the character on the other side. If you put them together, it'd be a symmetrical shot, but obviously as separate shots, they're actually asymmetrical. So everyone's still got that grid on their screen, because it will help. So obviously, while that's showing you rule of thirds, it makes it very easy to see where that midpoint is. Some phones that will come with a cross point in the middle. I know on iPhone it does. I'm not 100% on Android. But again, that's giving you that midpoint, but you can see that that middle third is easier to split in half when you've got the grid there and you can see what you're doing. So, for the first task, we're going to shoot a symmetrical image with a single point of focus, creating the symmetry. So, I put an example on the screen, so one I shot in our studio. So we've got the single line of symmetry going all the way down the middle and just one subject in it. So one main point creating that symmetry, not more. So what's going to work best for this is going really simple. So, give you 5 minutes, let's go off. I know, Emma, it's really useful. Once you get it on there, it's so useful to have. I've had to turn it off so that you don't see it on screen when I'm working here, but it is really useful. Yeah, so we're going to go off and create an image, take an image on your phone, on your cameras, finding symmetry, creating symmetry in image with a single point of focus. Okay, so I put those Wes Anderson ones back on screen for everyone, because they make things so much easier. Emma. He's so cute. Oh, I can't see where I'm holding that. I think that's about right. Great start. And as we said, that simplicity actually, Emma, that's perfect, because you've got him with very little else around. It works really, really well. Oh, I like the mug, Lisa. That works well.
Have you shown that was it all?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I wonder why you gave it me back. Okay, I'll just show quickly through a few of these. I think what works about that actually, Dom, is that it's like we said about it's symmetrical and yet it's not perfectly symmetrical. Like you've got the little bit of light in the corner, the cactus kind of leans a little different ways and stuff. It's not perfect, but it works really well because of that. So it's a bit of a funny one, and we said, like, we were talking about the rule of thirds. We were talking about colour theories in previous week. Shapes, well, shapes are just shapes, aren't they? This is kind of, while symmetry is a thing, and you can mirror something or whatever, it's a lot more of a fluid concept in that we want to just find what works best. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect to work. There we go, thank you, Emma. I'll give you your phone back, sorry. Oh, we've got some emails coming through. That's really nice, Sally, I like that. Sorry, Jen's got it up on the laptop, you guys can't see it. And George has sent one as well, there, Jen.
All right.
Again, that's really nice. That's got that symmetry without being perfect, which just seems keeping it simple, but also keeping it slightly imperfect seems to work. And Wes Anderson tends to do that. For example, the Grand Budapest Hotel one, I don't know how easy everyone can see that, is really nicely mirrored, apart from it's got this track kind of going across, which is wrong, and it just works really well because it adds another point of interest. It's a lovely one from Sally, I like that. Okay, so we're going to go straight into doing it again. So we talked about before having, with the way Wes Anderson will use either the one subject in the middle or using multiple subjects to create that symmetry. So you're not just having one in the middle, it's lots of different things around it, but it's still creating a symmetrical image. If I go back, no, Don't know how easy everyone can see that bottom left image. I don't know if I can zoom in on it at all. From A Life Aquatic, which is, it's got every single member of the cast in the image, but it's still symmetrical. So as we said before, while it's imperfect, there's lots of things that are perfect about it, but it still works and still has really nice symmetry. So what we're going to do this time, so I've used a good example actually with this one of Dima, is that again it's imperfect, but it's still got a lot of symmetry to it. So you've still got a nice line going down the middle, and it's balanced. It's got the same amount of information on each side of that line. And we're going to go and try and create images using multiple points of interest this time. So lots of things in one frame, but still creating symmetry. So go away, have another go. Again, the rule of thirds, not rule of thirds, sorry, your grid lines on your phone should help you kind of compose that image. Don't feel like you've just got to line something up, point it and shoot it. We're going to move around a little bit, try and get it working. So obviously having that grid on your screen helps you line things up a little bit. But take your time a little bit with each shot, make sure it's as perfect as possible. And let's see what results we get from that. So we have multiple points of interest, but creating symmetry. So one thing I'm noticing across most people actually, and I think this is happening with on most episodes, and if you find this generally as well, is the reason I'm saying to move your phone or your camera around a little bit, is it's our habit just to see things as we see them. Try turning. Try moving the camera around a little bit so we don't end up with every single one the same. You get a different perspective just by rotating and shooting a landscape image rather than a portrait image. So just play with it. I'm not saying it's going to be right just because it's landscape, but you might get a different feel to it. So let's see what we can produce.
Quite good for the multiple points.
Yeah, actually that's a really good point. So Emma sent this one before for the first one. It probably fits the second one a little bit better. So we've got the multiple points creating symmetry. So I don't know whether that's exactly how perfect her windowsill is anyway, with her melt burners on there. Joshua melts by any chance? But positioning them in that way has kept that symmetry working. Right, George, I've just spotted yours. I'm going to challenge you quickly, just while everyone, because I think you got that in quite quickly, to go and do that same shot again. Just take your time a little bit longer to line that up, because you've already it's so close, but it's just not quite symmetrical. So I think you can get that even better. Just make sure that Winnie the Pooh is right on that midpoint, because I think that's the one thing we can take from Wes Anderson, is a little bit of over planning can sometimes come up with some really good effects. So I don't know if anyone watched the Fantastic Mr. Fox trailer or the film, obviously, but there's the clip, it's in both, of Christopherson diving. He seems to be diving forever, and he's twiddling around in the air, but he's just so perfect. And then he hits the water, and just the water droplets all spurt out at exactly the right point, and it just so much symmetry going on, but it's so well planned, and that's what works. So yeah, there's definitely a lesson to be learnt from planning here a little bit. Okay, I'm going to give everyone a bit of feedback as we go here. So, Sally, I think you can do similar to what George did. I think just moving things around a little bit and just making sure, so things like you've got 2 cups in there, moving them around and getting them at equal points in the frame. So I love that you've got the flue on the wood burner in the middle at the moment, but then maybe just equally lining up those mugs either side. Just, I'm telling you to tidy, aren't I, basically? It's not what I mean. But just line things up a little bit more. And again, I think if you got a little bit lower, so if you've taken it there, if you go down a little bit, it's that planning, I think, will get everything squared up a little bit more. So just have a look and use the lines on the grid as well. So I think sometimes the easier way of thinking of this one, it's easier on Instagram. The easier way of thinking of this one is it might be better to have either 2 or 3 things, for example. I mean, obviously more, but having the same amount on either side. So rather than having one thing in the middle, 2 either side that are both identical or similar and taking up the same amount of space in the frame is going to be important to create that symmetry. So Dom sent us the simplest one ever, but it does it. So we can't argue with something being simple if it's right. That's it. You've got perfect symmetry in the image. I'd be interested, Dom, you can't see me, can you see me? Is doing the same one, like we said before, landscape, feet slightly further apart and taking up more of the frame. Might be a bit more interesting if you've got the space, because the nice kind of simple carpet works well with it. But Dom did a good example with the 3 that we were talking about before. So in fact, she's basically taken the same shot again, just added 2 more things, and there's nothing wrong with that. It works perfectly. It looks really nice. And she's kept that centre point still there, but added balance to either side. I like that, Emma. I really like that. Order in chaos. Lovely. That's exactly what I was talking about with, again, just that little bit of planning, just by thinking, well, what if I've got 2 identical things, if I put them equally balanced either side, that's going to give me that perfect balance, that kind of symmetry. And as we said, it's still imperfect. There's still lots of things that are not symmetrical about it. But just by planning those 2 things, I'll bring it back up again for everyone. That's better. That's much better, George. Perfect. Oh, sorry. There we go. So George did one before, and Winnie the Pooh just wasn't quite central. He was just a little bit off. So I said, go back and just try again. Just hold it in the right place. And if you just take your time to kind of move it around a little bit and think about what you're getting, you're going to get something better. And again, while you've got the imperfectness, we'll use it. We'll go with it. The imperfectness of having the shoes in there and the cupboard over here, there's still balanced amount in the shot. So you've still got the same amount of things happening on each side to make it work. So like that. Go on, we'll work a quick couple more before I take way too long and talk forever. Lovely, Zoe. Yeah, that's really good. That was the one before. Look at this, I'm getting everyone to tidy, aren't I? Is this basically a lesson in tidying? Because I shouldn't be giving it. Lovely. Have we got any more to come through? Yeah, have we had everyone's? So we're going to do one more little task before we go to homework. Okay, well, we'll come back to that in a moment because we've got one more task we want to do. There we go, Sally. Perfect. That's lovely. That works really well. I think this is, we're probably going to come to doing phone photography next week, and one of the main things is going to be just around taking your time to line up a shot and not just pointing and clicking. So that's exactly what you've done there. It's just kind of looking back at something. So what we're going to do, while Jen's just looking through some images for us for a moment, is we're going to work together. So this is something a little bit new. Bit of an idea I had, and I hope everyone will join with me on this. Bit of teamwork. We're going to pick someone who's got a kind of an object there that we think works and we can improve on. We're all going to come up with ways of making that image work better, and we're going to shoot it as a team as much as we can remotely and in different locations. So we're going to look at different things, so things that we've talked about that we liked in Wes Anderson's work and things we've done today, and how we can change that image to make it more symmetrical and more perfect. So what are we going to go with, Jen? Okay, so can I, yeah, we'll go with it. I like it.
Which one?
That, yeah. So I'm sure everyone is familiar with what this is. We're gonna.
That's George's.
This is George's picture of what do you call it? Posing drawing man. We'll go with that. We're going to come up with some ways George can shoot this, make it more symmetrical and more perfect. We can move it around. I'm sure he doesn't mind. Which means, George, you're going to have to do everything you're told, which I'm sure Sally's going to be very happy about. But so, everyone, talk to me. How are we going to improve this? How are we going to take a photo of that that's perfectly symmetrical? We need to give George some very clear instructions. We need to think about what he's putting in the background, how he's positioning the subject, what kind of height and angle he's taking the picture from, and if he's going to add anything around it. So, talk to me, guys. What's George going to do for us? Do you think take it portrait? Okay. Anyone else? How are we positioning him? I don't mean George. I mean, how are we positioning the man? What are you doing, Ralph? What are you doing? You want something? Not yet. Excellent, Zoe. I agree with that. So taking from slightly lower down to get a straight on look at the figure. Yeah, so Lisa, you said the same as well. We're going to go a little bit lower. And what do we think? Do we need to keep it a bit plainer in the background, a bit more interest in there? Put arms out to the side, yeah, excellent. That's a good idea. These are some good suggestions. Sally likes getting George to listen, so we pick the right person here. Honestly, I had no plan on who we were going to pick, so that was spur of the moment. Okay, so I've got a bit of an idea. So I'm just thinking, if anyone doesn't... Okay, Ralph. Well, that's a bit noisy. What are you doing? Okay, I'm going to have to bring him up because he's being loud. Come on. Come on.
Playtime.
Alright. Sorry about that interruption, guys. Okay, so... We say pattern background, different colour. I don't know if anyone realises Sally and George are in the same house. So we can kind of work with what Sally's had. We know what she's had in her pictures. Now I spotted with the swirly fan, we had a brick wall in the background. Would it be possible to put the man in front of the big wall? Big wall. Oh dear me. Brick wall. We can do that. And so we're saying some angles with the arms. And we said about getting him, so we're going to get the full body. I'm assuming he's got full legs and a stand on him. Going to get the full of... Does he have a name, George? This might be easier. Does he have a name? Barry. Okay. So, guys, can everyone else help? How are we going to position Barry to get this perfect picture? We're going to get him full length against the brick wall. And George is going to get low down so that we want Barry kind of straight on. So we don't want to be shooting from above at all. We want to be straight on for the picture. How are we going to position him? Is there anything we've talked about that makes a good example of symmetry that we could do? Come on, folks. George needs some suggestions. How are we going to do this? So we kind of had ideas of arms out to the side and some angles with the arms. Has anyone got a suggestion for how exactly Barry's going to be posed in his photo? So for anyone who's just joined in, we're helping George to create a perfect photo of his little posing mannequin, Barry. Turn him sideways. How do you mean, Lisa? Running could work, but I think we're going to be less symmetrical. I think we've got the advantage with him that he's already very symmetrical straight on, would be the one thing I'd suggest. Star jump's sounding good. I had a bit of an idea, I must admit. I was kind of leading you all a little bit there. So if Jen just shows us, we talked about this earlier, of the perfect symmetrical man. Do we think we could emulate the Vitruvian Man? Well done, Zoe, as it comes up on screen. Do we think we could emulate this with Barry against the brick wall? Obviously, he has less arms and legs, but if we go for the star jump kind of position, I think that might do it. And we can maybe even, once you've sent it over, if we crop it into a square, we might get that. We're not sure Barry's legs are that flexible. Needs to do more yoga. We shall have a go. I think if he just had his legs a little bit apart, and if his arms go out... Sorry, I was making assumptions about Barry there. Just to get that extra bit of shape, and just to keep that extra symmetry. Does anyone else have any more advice for George while he's doing this, just to make sure he gets it absolutely perfect for us? Your hair's all over my screen now, Ralph. Shall we just quickly go back and look at Wes Anderson? Oh, I've pressed the wrong button again, for God's sake. On or off stand? Does he come off the stand? Does that work? I mean, I'm guessing he's not going to stand up very well without it, so we should possibly keep him on it. You hear Ralph through my mic. I just realised he's really close to it. He's having a right whistle going on through his nose. You're molting everywhere, mate. Thank you. Hey. I'm covered. Alright, so what I think we're doing, George, is getting him into the closest to that shape we can get. Something symmetrical at least. Stood against that brick wall, because that's got the nice contrast and the pattern background Emma suggested. And we're going to shoot him kind of a little bit lower than you did before. So you're going to get that camera straight on and level with Barry. What are you doing, Ralph? You're being good. Let's have a look, see what results we get then, George. Yeah. Snowing. Not like that. Weird. How are we getting on? Everyone's gone quiet. We're waiting for George. Sorry, George. We don't want to rush you. I did tell you, take your time and get it perfect. Is everyone else that's gone quiet? Yeah, everyone's just sat listening to you whistle nose, Ralph. Lisa says she's doing her nails. I don't believe it.
Dom's giving her money.
Dom's giving her money.
A mini money.
Mini money. Delivery.
Someone's doing the email.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, that's bad timing to get delivery, isn't it? Oi, stop it. Let's see what Mannequin Barry looks like. Nice. There we go. Alright, I'm going to very quickly crop this into a square, George. I hope you don't mind. Well, just to continue the teamwork. There we go, folks. We have Vitruvian Barry. What does everyone think? Do you know what I think it needs? I think we need... That's for everyone. Everyone deserves that.
Yeah.
In fact, we'll do it again just to... Because I discovered sound effects and I've got to use them, basically. Has that even gone over there? It says it has. Where is it? Good. Bit of teamwork. And as we said, I think it's that taking your time to find those points. And like we said with Wes Anderson, he's probably drawn every single frame before he's done them, especially with Fantastic Mr. Fox, because he's having to stand there with stop motion and just change every single little thing every time. It's very, very planned, and I think that's what works well. What we're getting is not a natural looking thing. We're getting something very planned and very, I'm going to say fake, but not, because it just looks very, very perfect. So I think taking your time with something like this just works really, really well. Just make sure you're getting everything perfect and everything exactly how you want it is ideal. So, well done everyone. Has that made sense? Has anyone got any questions? I've not asked that before we move on. Any questions about symmetry? Anything I can help with? Okay. I need to work this out so you can all, because you're losing part of the picture every time. I'm sure there's a better way of doing it. I'll try and get that sorted for next week for you. So hopefully that little bit of teamwork, I think what that's made us do is discuss how we can make something better. So that's not necessarily a lesson for symmetry, but it's perfect for it because of how planned it seems to work best as. So, going to move on to some homework next. Going to go away. Going to keep shooting some images of symmetry to share with everyone before Tuesday. If we could get them to me by Monday night, just so we can get that video prepared, so it's a little bit easier to get them in. It takes about 10 minutes to get them in the video. But yeah, get over those. But this time we're not just looking for symmetry. We're looking for those previous rules that we talked about. So obviously rule of thirds isn't going to work quite so much with this, but for all the other lessons we've done, so looking at colour theory and shape, we want to see those used in this week's homework. So let's see what we can do. So again, looking at Fantastic Mr. Fox and its analogous colour, that's a great way to do it. We'll try and join in and get some done for you this afternoon as well, so we can keep going with it. But yeah, get those sent across to us by kind of Monday evening, and we'll get that in. But very good work, everyone. That's looked really, really good. I hope everything's made sense. I hope everyone's understood what we've been trying to achieve. So we're looking for symmetry in your photos for next week's homework, but also using the other episodes in it. So we want either colour theory or shape used in there, as well as symmetry. So let's see what we can produce. Already the work's looking absolutely amazing, so I'm excited to see what else we can produce. But don't just rest on what you've done already. Let's try and improve. So we want to see more images on top of what you've shot today, and try and get better is important. So we're always trying to improve it. And yeah, we'll do a couple this afternoon. Should we do some of Ralph? And do some of you, Mr. Photogenic? Perfect. Right. I'll leave you all to it. We will see you on Tuesday at 11 AM, hopefully with your homework, and hopefully some amazing Wes Anderson inspired symmetry images. So I expect to see some very kind of grand designs created from them, so it should be good. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you Tuesday morning. Bye.